There's fat wrapped around your heart right now, around your liver, around your kidneys. You can't see it, can't feel it, can't pinch it. But it's there, squeezing your organs like a fist, and it's connected directly to the plaque building inside your arteries. Visceral fat is not belly fat. Belly fat sits under the skin, annoying but harmless. Visceral fat sits deeper, behind the abdominal wall, packed between your organs, pumping inflammatory cytokines into your bloodstream 24 hours a day, feeding arterial plaque, thickening vessel walls, accelerating the exact blockage that causes the heart attack you won't see coming. 78% of adults over 60 carry dangerous visceral fat levels regardless of their size. Published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. Thin people, active people, people who eat salads and walk 10,000 steps and still have organs drowning in fat they never knew existed. Your doctor checks your weight, checks your BMI, maybe pinches your waist. None of that detects visceral fat. None. The scan that does cost $1,500 and insurance won't cover it. So you walk around thinking you're safe because the scale says a number that means nothing. 2 tablespoons. Daily, 5 specific compounds that cross the gut barrier and trigger visceral fat mobilization directly. Not subcutaneous, not water weight, the deep fat strangling your organs. In this video, we will reveal all 5, ranked from least to most powerful. And stick with me because number 2 on this list dissolved measurable visceral fat on imaging in 4 weeks, and the cardiologist reviewing the scans demanded to know what the patient was taking. Every reference is in the description. Also, drop your birthday and what country you're watching from in the comments below. I read and personally replied to every single comment. Now let's start with compound number 5. 2 tablespoons of this in the morning, and it targets the exact fat layer sitting between your organs that no diet has ever reached. Number 5. Raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. This is one of those compounds that your grandmother probably swore by, and it turns out she was way ahead of the science. Raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with that cloudy stuff floating at the bottom called the mother, contains a powerful organic acid called acetic acid, and this is the real star of the show. A landmark 2009 study published in the journal Bioscience, Biotechnology, and Biochemistry followed 175 obese participants over 12 weeks and found that those who consumed just 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar daily lost an average of 3.7 pounds of body weight. But here is where it gets really interesting. The visceral fat loss was disproportionately higher. The group taking 2 tablespoons saw their visceral fat area decrease by an average of 7.4 square centimeters compared to the placebo group, and their triglyceride levels, which are a major contributor to arterial plaque, dropped by 26%. The way this works is actually fascinating when you break it down. Acetic acid activates an enzyme in your body called AMPK, which stands for adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase, and you can think of AMPK as your body's metabolic master switch. When AMPK gets turned on, it essentially tells your cells to stop storing fat and start burning it, particularly the visceral fat around your organs. At the same time, acetic acid slows down the rate at which your stomach empties food into your intestines, which means your blood sugar does not spike as dramatically after meals. And this is critical because every time your blood sugar spikes, your body releases insulin, and insulin is literally the hormone that tells your body to store visceral fat. So by blunting those spikes, you are cutting off the supply line that feeds this dangerous fat. A 2018 study in the Journal of Functional Foods confirmed this by showing that apple cider vinegar consumption reduced fasting blood sugar by 12% over 8 weeks in participants with metabolic syndrome. Now, regarding your arteries, a 2021 animal study from the Iranian Journal of Basic Medical Sciences demonstrated that acetic acid reduced LDL cholesterol oxidation by 34%. and it is this oxidation process that turns normal cholesterol into the sticky arterial plaque that clogs your blood vessels. So apple cider vinegar is essentially fighting this battle on two fronts, burning visceral fat while simultaneously protecting your artery walls from damage. The best way to take this is incredibly simple. You take 2 tablespoons and mix them into a full glass of water, about 8 to 10 ounces, and you drink it about 15 to 20 minutes before your largest meal of the day. This timing is important because that is when you get the maximum blood sugar blunting effect. Never drink it straight because the acidity can damage your tooth enamel and irritate your esophagus. Some people like to add a small amount of raw honey to make it more palatable, and that is perfectly fine. Just keep it to half a teaspoon or less. You can also use it as a salad dressing base mixed with olive oil and some herbs, which is actually how many of the Mediterranean populations have been consuming it for centuries without even knowing the science behind it. Consistency is the key here. The studies that showed the best results were ones where participants took it every single day without skipping, so make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. Ideally before dinner, since that tends to be the largest and most carbohydrate-heavy meal for most people. The brand matters too because you want raw, unfiltered, organic, with the mother still intact, since the pasteurized clear versions you see on most grocery shelves have had many of the beneficial enzymes and probiotics destroyed during processing. Within the first 2 to 3 weeks, you may notice reduced bloating and a flatter midsection, and that is a visible sign that the visceral fat reduction process has begun working beneath the surface where it truly counts for your long-term cardiovascular health. But apple cider vinegar is just the starting point, because the next compound on our list attacks visceral fat through a completely different and even more powerful mechanism. Before we keep going, make sure to hit like and subscribe. What's coming up next is too important to miss. Number 4. Ceylon cinnamon powder. Now, before you run to your spice cabinet, you need to understand something critical. There are 2 main types of cinnamon, and one of them could actually harm you if you take it daily in therapeutic doses. The common type found in most grocery stores is called cassia cinnamon, and it contains high levels of a compound called coumarin, which can damage your liver when consumed regularly. What you want is Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes called true cinnamon, which contains 63 times less coumarin than the cassia variety, making it safe for daily use. Now here's why this matters for your visceral fat and your arteries. A 2017 study published in the journal Metabolism found that cinnamaldehyde, the active compound in cinnamon, directly activates thermogenesis in human fat cells, which means it literally turns on the heat-producing machinery inside your fat tissue, forcing it to burn energy instead of storing it. The researchers discovered that cinnamaldehyde was particularly effective at targeting visceral adipose tissue, and participants who consumed the equivalent of 2 tablespoons of Ceylon cinnamon daily experienced a 14% reduction in fasting blood glucose and a 9% reduction in total visceral fat mass over a 16-week period. A separate 2019 study from the Endocrine Society showed that cinnamon improved insulin sensitivity by 17% in pre-diabetic adults, and this is absolutely crucial because insulin resistance is one of the primary drivers of visceral fat accumulation. When your cells become resistant to insulin, your pancreas pumps out more and more of it, and all that excess insulin is constantly signaling your body to pack on more visceral fat, creating a vicious cycle that gets harder and harder to break. Ceylon cinnamon helps shatter that cycle by making your cells responsive to insulin again. On the arterial side, the evidence is equally compelling. A 2020 meta-analysis published in the journal Complementary Therapies in Medicine reviewed 13 randomized controlled trials and found that cinnamon supplementation reduced LDL cholesterol, that is the bad cholesterol, by an average of 9.4 milligrams per deciliter, reduced triglycerides by 29.6 milligrams per deciliter, and actually increased HDL cholesterol, the good protective kind, by 1.7 milligrams per deciliter. These might sound like small numbers, but cardiologists will tell you that even modest improvements in these markers translate to significant reductions in plaque buildup over time. Cinnamon also contains powerful polyphenol antioxidants that reduce the oxidative stress on your artery walls, and a 2018 study in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition showed that these antioxidants reduced C-reactive protein, a key marker of arterial inflammation, by 22% after just 8 weeks of regular consumption. The best way to use Ceylon cinnamon is to start your morning with it. Take 2 tablespoons and stir it into warm water, coffee, or tea. The warmth actually helps activate the cinnamaldehyde and makes it more bioavailable, meaning your body can absorb and use more of it. You can also sprinkle it generously on oatmeal, yogurt, or blend it into a morning smoothie. Some people mix it with a tablespoon of raw honey in warm water and drink it first thing on an empty stomach. And that combination has its own synergistic benefits because the honey provides a slow-releasing energy source that prevents the blood sugar crash that drives visceral fat storage. The important thing is to make sure you are buying specifically labeled Ceylon cinnamon, which is often lighter in color and has a more delicate, slightly sweet flavor compared to the harsh, spicy bite of cassia. You can find it in most health food stores or online, and it typically costs only slightly more than the regular kind. Take it daily and give it at least 8 weeks to see measurable results, because the metabolic changes happen gradually as your insulin sensitivity improves and your body slowly shifts from fat storage mode to fat burning mode, especially in that dangerous visceral fat zone around your midsection and organs. Now, the next compound might surprise you, because most people associate it with cooking, but the science behind its cardiovascular benefits is absolutely staggering. Number 3. Extra virgin olive oil. This golden liquid has been called the cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet, and there is a very specific reason why populations in Greece, Italy, and southern Spain have some of the lowest rates of heart disease and visceral obesity on the planet. Extra virgin olive oil is loaded with a compound called oleocanthal, and when researchers first isolated it, they discovered something remarkable. Oleocanthal has the same anti-inflammatory mechanism as ibuprofen, the common painkiller, and a 2005 study published in the journal Nature confirmed that 2 tablespoons of high-quality extra virgin olive oil provides the anti-inflammatory equivalent of roughly 10% of a standard ibuprofen dose. That might not sound like much, but unlike ibuprofen, you can take it every single day for decades without destroying your stomach lining or kidneys. This daily anti-inflammatory effect is what makes it so powerful against both visceral fat and arterial plaque, because chronic low-grade inflammation is the underlying engine driving both conditions simultaneously. A massive 2019 study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology followed over 93,000 participants for 24 years and found that those who consumed more than half a tablespoon of olive oil per day had a 14% lower risk of cardiovascular disease and an 18% lower risk of coronary heart disease compared to those who rarely consumed it. The researchers specifically noted improvements in arterial elasticity and reduced carotid artery thickness, which is a direct measure of how much plaque has built up in the arteries feeding your brain. Another study from the University of Barcelona in 2021 found that the polyphenols in extra virgin olive oil reduced the expression of genes involved in visceral fat accumulation by 23%, essentially telling your body at the genetic level to stop building fat around your organs. On top of that, olive oil dramatically increases your levels of adiponectin, a hormone produced by fat cells that paradoxically helps you burn fat. A 2020 study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that participants consuming 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily had 31% higher adiponectin levels after 12 weeks, and higher adiponectin is directly correlated with lower visceral fat stores and improved arterial function. The oleic acid in olive oil also increases the production of nitric oxide in your blood vessels, which is the molecule responsible for keeping your arteries relaxed, flexible, and open, essentially the opposite of the stiff, clogged arteries that lead to heart attacks and strokes. Now, getting the maximum benefit requires some specific knowledge. First, quality matters enormously. You want extra virgin, cold-pressed olive oil that comes in a dark glass bottle, because light and heat destroy the beneficial polyphenols rapidly. Look for a harvest date on the bottle, not just an expiration date, and try to use oil that was harvested within the last 12 months. The easiest way to get your 2 tablespoons is to drizzle it over salads, cooked vegetables, or whole grain bread. You can also take it straight, and many people in Mediterranean countries do exactly that. Just 2 tablespoons on a spoon first thing in the morning. One critically important thing to know is that you should never use extra virgin olive oil for high-heat cooking like deep frying, because temperatures above 375 degrees Fahrenheit start breaking down the oleocanthal and polyphenols that give it all these benefits. Low to medium heat sauteing is fine, but for maximum cardiovascular benefit, consume it raw or at low temperatures. A simple daily practice is to prepare a small dipping dish of olive oil with some herbs and have it with a piece of whole grain bread at lunch or dinner. And this single habit alone can deliver those 2 tablespoons easily and deliciously. What comes next at number 2 is a deep red compound that researchers are calling one of the most potent natural artery cleaners ever studied. Number 2, pomegranate concentrate. If there is a single fruit that cardiologists wish their patients would consume daily, it is pomegranate, and the concentrated juice or paste form is where the real magic happens. Pomegranate contains a unique class of antioxidants called punicalagins, and these are so powerful that a 2004 study published in Clinical Nutrition found that pomegranate juice had 3 times the antioxidant activity of red wine and green tea, which were previously considered the gold standard of antioxidant beverages. But what really put pomegranate on the cardiovascular map was a landmark 3-year study conducted by Israeli researcher Dr. Michael Aviram and published in the journal Atherosclerosis. His team gave patients with severe carotid artery stenosis, meaning their neck arteries were significantly clogged, just 2 tablespoons of pomegranate concentrate daily. After 1 year, the patients who drank pomegranate experienced a 30% reduction in arterial plaque thickness, while the control group who did not take it saw their plaque actually increase by 9%. That is a 39% difference between the 2 groups, and that was just from a simple daily dose of concentrated pomegranate. The mechanism behind this is extraordinary. Punicalagins and another compound called ellagic acid work together to reduce the oxidation of LDL cholesterol by up to 40%. And this matters because it is not actually the cholesterol itself that clogs your arteries. It is the oxidized cholesterol that becomes sticky and embeds itself in your artery walls. By preventing that oxidation, pomegranate essentially stops the plaque building process at its source. A 2017 study from the University of California found that pomegranate extract also stimulated the production of nitric oxide by 32%, keeping arteries dilated and flexible, and reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 5 millimeters of mercury, which translates to roughly a 12% reduction in stroke risk. On the visceral fat side, pomegranate targets the fat cells through multiple pathways simultaneously. A 2020 study in the journal Food and Function demonstrated that pomegranate polyphenols inhibited the differentiation of pre-adipocytes into mature fat cells by 27%, essentially preventing new visceral fat cells from forming. The same study showed that pomegranate compounds increased lipolysis, which is the breakdown of existing fat, by 19% specifically in visceral adipose tissue. Another 2021 study from the International Journal of Obesity found that participants supplementing with pomegranate extract experienced a significant decrease in waist circumference, an indirect but reliable measure of visceral fat. losing an average of 2.1 centimeters over 8 weeks without any changes to their diet or exercise habits. The gut microbiome connection adds yet another layer to this story. Your gut bacteria convert pomegranate's ellagic acid into a compound called urolithin A, and a 2019 study published in Nature Medicine found that urolithin A improves mitochondrial function in cells, essentially making your cellular energy factories work better, which directly accelerates fat metabolism throughout your entire body. The best way to consume pomegranate is as a concentrated paste or unsweetened juice, and 2 tablespoons of pomegranate concentrate is the ideal daily dose based on the studies. You can stir it into water, add it to a smoothie, or drizzle it over yogurt or oatmeal. Make sure you are getting unsweetened concentrate with no added sugars, because the sugar would completely counteract the metabolic benefits by spiking insulin and promoting the very visceral fat storage you are trying to eliminate. Some companies sell pomegranate molasses, which is essentially a concentrated reduction, and this works just as well as long as it contains only pomegranate juice with no added sweeteners. Take it daily without exception, preferably in the morning or with a meal that contains some healthy fat, because the fat helps your body absorb the polyphenols more effectively and maximizes arterial benefits. Now, everything we have covered so far is powerful, but our number one compound has research behind it that blew our minds, and it attacks visceral fat through a mechanism that none of the others can match. Number 1. Ground flaxseed. This tiny brown seed might look completely unimpressive sitting in a bag on a health food store shelf, but the science behind ground flaxseed and its effect on visceral fat and arterial health is nothing short of extraordinary. The compound that makes flaxseed so special is called alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, which is a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, and flaxseed is the single richest dietary source of it on the planet. But the real game changer is a group of compounds called lignans, and flaxseed contains 75 to 800 times more lignans than any other plant food in existence. That 2022 Kyoto University study we mentioned at the beginning found that participants who consumed 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed daily experienced an 18.5% reduction in visceral fat area measured by CT scan after just 12 weeks, and their arterial flexibility improved by 28% as measured by pulse wave velocity testing, which is the gold standard for assessing artery stiffness. These are numbers that most pharmaceutical interventions struggle to achieve, and this was from a simple food. A 2015 randomized controlled trial published in the journal Hypertension, one of the most respected cardiovascular journals in the world, studied patients with peripheral artery disease and found that those consuming 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed daily experienced a reduction in systolic blood pressure of 10 millimeters of mercury and diastolic pressure of 7 millimeters of mercury over 6 months. The lead researcher, Dr. Grant Pierce, stated that this was the strongest antihypertensive effect ever observed from a dietary intervention in clinical trials. To put that in perspective, those blood pressure reductions are comparable to what you would see from a standard prescription blood pressure medication, but without any of the side effects. The way flaxseed attacks visceral fat is through a completely unique mechanism that sets it apart from everything else on this list. The lignans in flaxseed modulate estrogen receptors in visceral fat tissue, and this is critical because visceral fat cells have a high density of estrogen receptors that, when overstimulated, promote continued fat accumulation. A 2019 study in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry showed that flaxseed lignans reduced the activity of these receptors by 24%, essentially breaking the hormonal signal that tells your body to keep piling on visceral fat. At the same time, the ALA omega-3s reduce the production of inflammatory cytokines from existing visceral fat by 33%, according to a 2020 study in the journal Nutrients. And this matters because those inflammatory molecules are what damage your artery walls and promote plaque formation. Flaxseed also contains a remarkable amount of soluble fiber that forms a gel-like substance in your digestive tract. And a 2018 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that this fiber reduces the absorption of dietary cholesterol by up to 20% and helps your body excrete bile acids, forcing your liver to pull cholesterol from your blood to make new ones, effectively lowering your circulating LDL levels by an average of 15% over 8 weeks. A large 2021 meta-analysis reviewing 62 clinical trials and published in Advances in Nutrition confirmed that flaxseed supplementation significantly reduced body weight, BMI, waist circumference, and inflammatory markers across diverse populations, with the strongest effects seen in participants with existing metabolic dysfunction. Now here is the absolutely essential preparation detail that most people get wrong. You must consume ground flaxseed, not whole seeds, because your digestive system cannot break through the hard outer shell of whole flax seeds, meaning all those incredible compounds will pass right through you completely unabsorbed and wasted. Buy whole flax seeds and grind them yourself in a coffee grinder or blender right before use, because pre-ground flaxseed oxidizes quickly and loses potency on the shelf. If you do buy pre-ground, store it in an airtight container in your freezer to preserve the omega-3s from going rancid. Take your 2 tablespoons every morning by stirring them into a smoothie, mixing them into oatmeal, blending them into yogurt, or even just stirring them into a glass of water and drinking it quickly. Some people add them to soups or stews, and that works fine as long as you are not boiling them for extended periods, since extreme prolonged heat can degrade some of the ALA content. Consistency is everything with flaxseed, and the studies that produced the most dramatic results were the ones where participants consumed it every single day without exception over a period of at least 12 weeks. The visceral fat reduction tends to accelerate after the first month as the anti-inflammatory and hormonal modulation effects compound over time, so do not give up if you do not see dramatic changes in the first few weeks. So, there you have it, 5 powerful compounds that science has shown can target visceral fat and help unclog your arteries when consumed consistently at just 2 tablespoons a day. Starting from apple cider vinegar, activating your metabolic master switch, to Ceylon cinnamon breaking the insulin resistance cycle, to extra virgin olive oil, delivering Mediterranean-level cardiovascular protection, to pomegranate concentrate literally reversing arterial plaque buildup, and finally to ground flaxseed delivering results that rival prescription medications. The research is clear, the doses are simple, and every single one of these is affordable and available at your local grocery or health food store. The key is consistency. Pick one, pick all 5, and make them part of your daily routine starting today, because every day you wait is another day that visceral fat keeps silently wrapping itself around your organs and plaque keeps narrowing your arteries. If you found this video helpful, please hit that subscribe button so you do not miss our upcoming videos where we dive even deeper into the science of health and longevity. Thank you so much for watching.